Good morning, everyone. What's happening? This is Tyler Dunn here in the greater Boston, Colden area of Western New York, and Jim Monos down there in the state of Texas. Jim, how are you doing this morning? How you hanging?
Tyler, we try not to talk weather ever. I mean, it's a horrible, it's usually you talk about when you have nothing to talk about, but
So let's
some
get into
type
it.
of, it's some type of once in a generational ice storm here in the Dallas, Texas area, Arlington, Texas, where the XFL is right now. So certainly some bumps in the road as expected sometimes that you can't control, but you're in a warmer area than I am right now.
So when an ice storm just swallows
There,
Arlington, what do? Like, do you just hang out at the hotel? You know?
Yeah, every team is trying to find ways to get through it. It's like a school day. Think about school day back when you were a kid. Everything's
Yeah.
shut down. The restaurants are shut down. So it's definitely tricky.
Gosh, and you've been down there for a bit, and you've been back and
Well,
forth, but
I've been back and forth. Some of these guys I work with, they've been here the entire month. So this thing's kicking off, like February 18th is opening weekend. So we're in the home stretch.
love it. Can't wait to see it. I think we've all kind of on the
Yeah.
peripheral seen the big name coaches getting hired. The uniforms are sleek and
Yeah.
sharp,
Yeah.
awesome. The product was great last time, and that was a completely different XFL than what you guys have been building here for what 2-3 years.
Here's a good topic for you. Here's a good question for you.
Yeah,
With the XFL, one of the things I love about the XFL is the extra point. You either go for one, you can go for two, go for three. Um, and three is from the 10-yard line. I'm all about going for three every time. It would just change so much of the game. And I think that's the stuff I'm looking forward to because I think there may be some teams that buy into that because if we can be the baseline for for the NFL to judge us and see what's the value of going, they won't be going for three, but maybe there is more value for them going for two if they score in the first quarter right away. Like I've talked about that on this. I think going up 8-0 in the first quarter, you're changing some things. And if you have a weapon at quarterback, the dual threat that can make plays, going for two in the NFL is very attainable.
that is awesome. You
So
know
anyway,
I'm
that's
all
the
for the
stuff. Yeah,
elimination of kickers in general. So
that's yes. So it's headed. I like that too. So anyway, but yeah, man, thanks for. It's been a good journey here so far. So
fantastic. Yeah, I think anything that can kind of break the brains of football dinosaurs and how, you get into a game and, the old timers or people who just, there's this way of thinking like this is how it's always been. This is how it's always going to be, whether you're coaching, whether you're scouting. I think that's kind of how we really hit it off, actually. When we first started talking, way back when about, the Bills and Mahomes and Allen and that draft and how it came to be, we were just shooting the shit at Resurgence downtown.
no
And
doubt,
remember, it was during COVID, so we had to eat
I
something while we
do.
were drinking because that's how you stopped. That's how you stopped COVID. You ate while you drank. That's what
I
prevented it
forget
from
all the
spreading.
rules. I
We
forget
went
all
through
the
like
rules.
we went through like 4 baskets of fried pickles. I remember.
Well, there must have been
I'm like,
something washing those pickles down, um, if I remember correctly as well.
right. I mean, we probably are more apt to get like severely sick from eating 4 baskets of fried pickles than, maybe talking while not eating at a bar in 2020. Uh, but I just remember, I'm like, man, this guy, we kind of have similar football brains here in that you just are thinking outside the box always. And it's not all, the decision isn't always going to hit the bullseye, but when you dare to be different and you take a chance and you think about football in creative ways, that's when special things can happen. Whether you're coaching, you're scouting, you're playing, anything.
You would have enjoyed since we're kind of experienced like I was saying, like a snow day when you're a kid in school right now here in Texas. But yesterday, like Whaley, myself, and we have some younger guys, starting out in the business and trying to learn some things. So we broke down Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence.
Ooh.
We went through the playoff games, watching tape. So we were doing some good stuff, just to, some other stuff to pass, get through the day. But it was pretty cool to see Trevor Lawrence. It's really funny. That game that they came back in, he did not play very well at all, even in the second half, really.
Really?
Yeah, you really need to go back
Wow.
and study it. Right. The touchdowns were kind of wide open, busted coverage type throws that were, good job. But he really, and Daniel Jones was, just really, really bad against the Eagles. I mean, decision making, they were completely, I will say this, the defensive coordinator for Philly, going back and watching that game, he did a number on the Giants.
And then
He,
the former, that Chargers
he had Daniel
Jaguars game.
Jones guessing.
I mean, Brandon Staley keeping his job. I guess he had to fire everybody around him, but man, what an
Right.
indictment on it's your defense. You've got this lead and you blow it. Brutal. And so this episode, we'll get into some coaching stuff
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. Sean Payton, I'm shocked. Even I know money talks. I'm shocked that he took the Denver Broncos job, so we have to talk about that. But at the top, we thought it would be, really fascinating and insightful to talk to Jim about his first NFL job. You were
Oh,
with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we tend to lean into those Saints years and hear the
yeah,
stories. We had Roman Harper on and Jyree Evans, and
yeah,
so much about Sean Payton, Drew Brees, and obviously the Buffalo Bills is
yeah.
we've retold those stories. And when you were the director of personnel with the Bills, obviously, working right there with Doug Whaley day in and day out. Before that, you were a Southeast scout with the New Orleans Saints for how many
Yeah.
years?
That was there for, I think, 9, 8 or 9, eight or
And
9 years.
then
Yeah, 8.
before that, you started with the Eagles.
That was with the
When
Eagles
and
in the
for how long?
Northeast. Yeah, it was a
The
scout in the
Northeast? Okay.
Northeast for like 5 years. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, so and I started, Tyler. It goes all the way back to as an intern in the public relations department. That's how I got in the door in Philly. Um, transcribing press conferences. Brian Mitchell, the old running back, it was my very first assignment. I'll never forget it. In the old vet stadium in Philly. But just incredible memories of those days, Tyler. I mean, think about coming out of like that was a 9 credit internship I had as a P in public relations. So think about that, right? I mean, you're just out of your mind. Like I remember the first day you're just stuffing pennants, old pennants. They had me stuffing pennants in envelopes, all the stuff you do as an intern.
Yeah.
But anyway, to come all the way this way and then see that Coach Andy Reid's going back, playing Philly in a Super Bowl they're going to beat that into the ground. We don't need to get into all that, but and we've talked enough about Coach Reid too, is we know how great of a coach he is and what he's done in Kansas City is, it's incredible. But the Philly stuff is real fun for me right now because I work with Mark Ross, who, we work together in Philly and longtime friends, and we're working together in the XFL. And then Brian Westbrook's working with us too, who was, my first year as a Northeast scout. That was the very first school I went to. And Mark Ross took me there to kind of show me the ropes and show me how to do a school visit and who you talk to and the questions you might want to ask. And, I just remember after the visit, Mark asking me about Westbrook and like, what do you think of him? And I'm like, that might have been the best player I've ever seen, but I don't know. He's at Villanova. I mean, it's like I'm a first year scout. And I'm like, he's at Villanova. So I don't know, but that's the best player I've ever watched. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like Tyler was incredible. Like nobody could stop him. And it was just the most dominant player. Anyway, and Mark just said, yeah, I like him too. And I was like, okay, because, Mark was the director of scouting at the time. So even though we were, we have friends, he's still, you're still your boss. You're still trying to impress him. Anyway, Mark loved him. Mark Ross is a big reason Brian Westbrook was with the Philadelphia Eagles. It took some selling a little bit. Just he wasn't a burner. He didn't have a great 40 time. That wasn't his deal. So that all of a sudden now we're all right. Now you're scared because he's doesn't hit the combine 40 and played at Villanova. But the rest is history. And that was a good learning experience for me as a first year scout because I was able to see that guys from Villanova anywhere can make it in the NFL. Because guess what Brian Westbrook had that nobody else had? Incredible toughness and incredible football intelligence and a love for the game to go along with his incredible skill set. We were
So
talking a
where
lot about Brian Westbrook these last couple of weeks with the Eagles,
yeah.
working together. I mean, he was an all-time dominant football player as far as return game, pass game, running back, just everything. Everything he did at Villanova, he did in the NFL.
But it's Villanova, right? I mean, this when we think Villanova, we think Jay Wright and God
See,
Archie. What was his name? The guy I'm thinking of basketball players.
that's what I was going
The
to say. I
Final
thought,
Four. Scotty Reynolds was that one of their players?
I was
You
thinking
don't
like
think
Kerry Kittles.
Kerry Kittles? Yes. You don't think or who was Randy Foy? Was Randy Foy the guy whose eye popped out of the socket? Remember that in the one year?
Ooh, good call for it. Yeah, I don't remember.
Alan Ray and Randy Foy were like two of the guards they had back in the day. Uh, but yeah, you don't think football.
No, so
And
anyway,
I don't
yeah,
know many football
just
players in general who come out of there. So when you're just getting into this all, you're just learning how to scout for Mark Ross and what to look for, what traits you've got to
mhm,
really be hunting for because there's just so many levels of football, so many different levels of competition.
mhm.
Andy doesn't have a grade 40. I mean, there's probably most talent evaluators write Brian Westbrook off. I don't know. I mean,
It's
a
why
lot
we
would.
it's why we were able to draft him in the third round, I believe.
Which is still pretty high to take a running back from Villanova. I mean, his numbers were insane.
I'd say this back,
What did you see? And you're like, whoa, this trait right
yeah.
here that I'm scouting for the first time is rare. It's different. This is worth whatever.
He I think it just gave I think back then it was maybe a little bit more of a I don't want to say a risk, but maybe Villanova third round. I think now that's pretty I think that's very common now. It wouldn't be, but back then, yeah. But I tell you, it just gave you confidence as a scout, and then to be around, everybody I'm working with, and seeing that the confidence, we had to bring Westbrook in for like a private workout too, to really, and I'll never forget it because it was really windy out. John Harbaugh was the special teams coordinator, and we were just on the jug machine, just shooting punts, and it was windy day in Philly, cold, windy. He didn't drop one. That's the one thing we always talked about. Yeah. Just one of those days, like, you know how hard catching a punt is. I mean, it's one of the hardest things to do. So in the weather like that and the wind, so that's how natural he was. But it was things like that that I love about a draft that people don't even know about. The private
Yeah.
workouts and the things you might see that weren't on tape, whatever stuff. Those stories go a long way.
Even the players themselves forget them. I saw Von Bell for that Bengal story last week, and I think I was right. I was like, hey, I do a podcast with Jim Monos, and
He was
he took
part
you
of
to
that.
Giancarlo's in Buffalo, New York, and he thought
He
for
was
a
part of
second,
that dinner.
he's like Jim Bills. He's like, okay, yeah, I can remember that. It took him a second. He
It's
remembered it.
Tyler, it goes to show you how crazy their lives are. You would
Yeah.
think that would stand out. I mean, having a dinner with your teammates in Buffalo, before your draft, you would think you would remember that dinner. But those guys are they had those. That's every night for those guys.
Yeah. It's But in terms of
Anyway,
the decisions that are made, I mean, these workouts, these meetings,
yeah,
are so unbelievably important. And that was a draft pick. I just pulled up Brian Westbrook's numbers. I mean,
it's crazy, right?
he's one of the more underrated players in the history of the
Gotta get him. We
game.
gotta get him on here. Yeah, we gotta get him on.
We really do. I mean, so what year did you become a scout then with the
So it
Eagles?
was like 2001, kind of when I was hired full time. Yep, May of 2001. I remember that. But I'll tell you the other thing that I look back on that because I do need to give. We've joked about Howie Roseman and our relationship and starting out in Philly, and I was an intern. Howie was, he was like an assistant to Joe Banner, who was running the salary cap and was some type of president in the organization. But Howie what I can say and just give him a ton of respect and credit right now to do what he's done. He learned the business. Like he worked hard to learn the business to really become an evaluator for him. But he's always surrounded himself with experienced evaluators because Howie's always been a master of the cap as far as the rules of the game. He was always ahead of his time. I used to like to actually talk to Howie because he was in a little cubicle too. I mean, I had a little shared office. Howie had a little cubicle. And I can remember walking down and sitting with him and just talking football. Like he would be talking money, salary cap stuff that I would be, well, I didn't know anything about that, but he would ask me football questions. So his he always had a thirst for learning football. He loves football. Like, and it doesn't surprise me what he's done. And you just got to give him a ton of credit for really sustaining success. It's the ultimate goal as a GM to sustain success for your owner. And they're relevant. They're always relevant.
Those early days with Howie Roseman. So you're just
Cubicle.
both in a cubicle,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
at the absolute bottom of the totem
I'm telling you,
pole.
I can picture it. I can picture exactly where he was. I was delivering clips sometimes. You remember delivering clips when you're an intern, but yeah, then I was scouting. But yeah, it was and in this, yeah, his rise and I mean, and we've talked about this. I know but everybody goes through hits and misses. I mean, it's a credit to the Eagles ownership. Jeffrey Lurie believes in Howie Roseman, and we talk about structure. The owner has set the tone from the start. Howie Roseman is in control. And what do we always say? Know who's in control. It goes a long way. Howie picks the coach. He and the coach, now they have their quarterback in Hurts. Now they go. All four are in place.
I don't think there's a more fascinating GM story in the NFL. He's in
I would agree.
charge. Chip
I would
Kelly
agree.
comes into town. He's kind of, shoved into the back. And then Chip Kelly has all that wild success early on. And then the league figures him out. He's out of the league. Howie takes over. They build a Super Bowl winner. Then they end like 4-10-1 that year. Joe Judge is bashing your head coach for not respecting the game, right? Doug Peterson, he gets fired. And then boom, you instantly build another Super Bowl team. It's wild. And I'll have a story at GoLongTD.com on it, but I just think, his willingness to, he makes a mistake, like all GMs are going to make mistakes, but he doesn't let ego get in the way, and he doesn't just try to convince himself that this mistake he made, this has to work, right? The Carson Wentz contract. Okay. Instantly, a year later, he's not the same quarterback. Draft Jalen Hurts. The whiffing on receivers, Whiteside, Jalen Reagor. That's okay. No problem. Oh, we missed Justin Jefferson. Well, we're going to take Devontae Smith. We're going to trade for A.J. Brown. We're going to keep taking these stabs at wide receivers. So I just think that that speaks a lot to Howie Roseman too, where it'd be really easy for a GM in that seat who just really busted ass for years and years and years to get into that seat, to make a decision and then convince themselves that this player I drafted is going to work, right? And do everything in their power to overpay for that player, double, triple, quadruple down on that player, and then you're going to get fired either way. So you might as well own the reality in which you live in. If you drafted a player, he's not what you thought he was, and he hits free agency, it's okay to let somebody else overpay for that player and challenge yourself to get better. And I'm all over the place here, Jim, so I apologize. But I feel like the Bills have made a lot of really good decisions. Tremaine Edmonds is that polarizing kind of player right now that they're going to be facing. And we'll get into all their decisions. But it's like, if he is demanding X amount on the open market, I'd be tempted. A player like Tremaine Edmonds, I should say, let somebody else overpay for that player. Or Howie Roseman has taken players, signed players. They haven't been what he wanted. And he just moves on. So as a personnel man yourself for 2 decades, how difficult is that? To own a mistake that quickly? that quickly and move on and take somebody else in that same position.
If you can't own it and learn from it, then you will never become a better evaluator. You just won't. That means you're just too stubborn to learn. That's all that is learning, and it happens real quick. I'll give a good Eagles story on learning. We drafted in the second round, I believe. I'd have to look. Billy McMullen from Virginia. I believe it was. I have to look at these drafts. I got to pull that one up. It might have been the Westbrook draft.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, check that one. Okay. So Billy McMullen was a big wideout from Virginia, set all kinds of records at Virginia. At the end of the day, Tyler, I thought he was just one of those. Why do you need me to scout this guy? Like he's big, he's just big and can make plays. But he wasn't at the end of the day, he really, now I look back on it, he wasn't the fastest. He was an average route runner at best. He wasn't special after the catch. And for a big guy, he actually had average hands. He was a complete bust.
Billy McMullen, 2003. So this is a year. You took Brian Westbrook, 91st overall in the 2002 draft. 2003, you take Billy McMullen, 95th overall.
So it was that. Okay. So he was the next
52
guy.
career catches. You're right. He did last for 5 years,
Yeah,
but
but look at his Tyler. Look at his Virginia stats. Sometime that's what's crazy when you. But point being, I learned it quick, and I'm going to tell you what I did when I interviewed for my job with the Saints for the New Orleans Saints when I was interviewing for the Southeast. I brought Billy McMullen up in the interview as far as a guy that I just, I said, this is a guy that I learned on real quick. I always used him as a lesson. And the Saints told me they like that. And, after the interview, they liked that part of the like that I was talking about learning from that. So if you can do that, GM, you got to keep swinging. I tell you, it's just like baseball. If you hit 3 out of 10 draft picks, hit 300, you're probably going to go Hall of Fame.
It's true. And
I mean,
it
it's
just
that.
takes
If you study the drafts, they're that inexact.
that was such a fascinating team at that time. Andy Reid is still kind of new at this head coaching thing. His tree is
Tyler,
wild. I mean, so many
that
coaches.
staff. Leslie Frazier was there. We talk about the Bills. He was the secondary coach. Sean was Coach Reid's assistant.
Right?
And then he went, and then that's how he started. Just like I started as an intern just to get in the door. Sean was Coach Reid's assistant. Then he went on to be a
Sean
position
McDermott.
coach. McDermott, sorry, yeah, Sean McDermott. Then he went on to position coach. But I mean, we all started there. Mark Ross was director of college. I mean, and everybody branched out.
Ron
The coaching,
Rivera, John Gruden.
the coaching thing's crazy.
Yeah.
Sean Payton started there, but that was before Coach Reid, though. He was with Ray Rhodes.
That's right.
But
Yeah,
for
because he
Tyler,
was talking about that on the radio.
I can tell you one thing that I learned more than anything was scouting and coming up in Philly and I talk about it, physical toughness, how we talk about they're wired differently than we are. When I was around Brian Dawkins and Jeremiah Trotter on those defenses in Philadelphia, Hugh Douglas, I officially was like, I'm not like that. Like these guys, this is why when you're scouting, that's what you're looking for. That rare quality of just insane toughness that these guys have. And I was around the best of the best. I mean, I got to learn right away as a young scout what the best look like. Hall of Famers, Troy Vincent at corner. I mean, it was awesome. And then don't even get into the whole McNabb and the offensive lineman we had. I mean, it was like I was just around. Basically, I was just gifted as a young scout. I was put into one of the best teams on the NFL. I didn't have to sit there and I didn't have to guess what a franchise quarterback looks like or a great coach looks like. To be honest, that gave me a lot of confidence when we were interviewing Sean McDermott for the job because I know where Sean came from. Like I know the organization Sean grew up in. It was tough, well run, organized, structured the right way. And Sean did that in Buffalo. Sean did it. Regardless of coaching decisions, we can break that down all we want, but he structured the Bills the correct way.
I mean, I just laugh because our listeners here, they have heard everything you've said about Sean McDermott, the current Bills. And then, if I write a story that's critical, and I've had a few on how these seasons have ended for Sean McDermott and the Bills, I'll get like a wayward tweet. Oh, why don't you just go drink a beer with Monos and listen to his stories and how bitter it's like, better.
Bitter.
Do you
I'm,
even listen to our podcast? Do you have any effing clue? Like
I'm telling
you
you.
go out of your way to say that this team is structured the right way, out of your way to say how chaotic things were before and that order was restored. So get the hell out of here. If anybody out there say that shit.
And for all the Bills fans that do really love that Sean McDermott is the head coach, Andy Reid's a big part of that too, because when Terry Pagula called Andy Reid about him, it was nothing but rave reviews.
And I
And
never
we've
take
talked
any of
about
that away. That stuff matters. It mattered this year with the DeMar Hamlin situation. It was just, like I said,
matters,
textbook with how things were handled. Like
matters.
all of that is established, and that comes from Andy Reid, right? Like that's how. So Andy Reid kind of set a model for how a team can be run with the head coach in control at the top,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you're there as a scout, what does that look like when Andy Reid is really the one kind of in charge of the operation?
So for a scout, you have little time with the head coach, really. I mean, what he did, he'll sit in on the draft meetings and listen. When you're reading, we call it reading your players, from your area. And so he would be in those meetings. Coach Reid was a huge, huge believer in the draft, just like Sean Payton was too. I always respected those head coaches that were, and McDermott is too, that just they're draft heavy, like into it. And that blew me away as a scout. I'm like, wow, I didn't really understand how much the coaches did back then, but then I'm looking around Andy Reid and all the coaches are involved. They become a part of it. It's a big, you have to involve everybody. And we talked about that with that 17 draft where
Yeah.
we all thought we were involved pretty well. But anyway, back to that. That's what Coach Reid did. That's what he believed in. And you see the same traits. Sean has that. Like he's setting that tone in the building with the draft. He believes in it, hired his personnel, his GM that he believes in and trusts. Andy Reid did the same thing. Andy Reid got total control and moved on. He brought in Tom Heckert. That is who he chose as GM. Tom Heckert has passed away, but I've worked with him, but anyway, but you see how Sean did the same thing. Gets his head job. He and Whaley didn't see eye to eye, however you want to say it. Didn't believe in us. Moved on. Got his guy in, just like Coach Reid did.
Says a lot about you and Doug Whaley when you're, recommending him for head coach and you're conducting these interviews and you're a smart guy. You
Hey,
probably had that fear in the back of your mind. I mean, this is what's best for the Buffalo Bills, but it might not be what's best for Jim Monos if he follows that Reid model.
no question. And it was brought up. I mean, it was brought up to me as far as you don't know what do you have that good of a relationship with Sean? I'm like, no. But this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to be a part of hiring a head football coach in the NFL.
Mhm.
The Pagulas had Doug Whaley and myself. That was it. And that was fun to be a part of that. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah,
So
it's
anyway,
those
but yeah, the Philly stuff, the Eagle stuff is definitely runs deep. Like as far as always has a place, you always smile a little bit when they're making their run right now and because you relive those stories.
then you guys had to just break my heart in 2003 on 4th and 26 when Freddie Mitchell sneaks
Freddie,
behind that Packers defense. I think they had like 2 sacks on back-to-back plays right before that. Lest we forget Mike Sherman punting on 4th and short when Najee Davenport and Amon Green are just running roughshod over your Eagles all game long. They punt, speaking of punting, and give Donovan McNabb an opportunity. And oh my God. That was kind of at the tail end of my fan days. When I liked Green Bay as a kid, I can still remember watching 4th and 26, man. It was Freddie Mitchell. He did the belt long before Aaron Rodgers even thought about the belt. Drop that. field goal, overtime, pick, field goal. How did you watch that game? Do you remember where you were?
I do. I was in Las Vegas. There was an all-star football game. I was covering as a scout. I was in Vegas, and I was cheering like a little kid when Freddie caught that.
Did you have
I was
hair
just,
then too? Did you have hair like my back then?
I was holding tight.
Okay.
I was probably, I was probably heading. I mean, yeah, it was heading the wrong way.
I mean, I was 14 years old and I was probably hanging on for dear life too. So it's
I think if I look back, I may have been too. I may have to check on that.
14. I
But
might be
yeah, man, that
16
was.
actually. Yeah, I would
It's
have been
funny how
old.
you said.
Yeah.
It's funny how that's a good call. 4th and 26. And like, do you remember where you were?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those periods of time in NFL history that I mean, it's not forgotten with Eagle fans, obviously, but to
Right.
make yeah, obviously 4 Super Bowls is in its own class for the Buffalo Bills in the early 90s, but still 4 straight NFC championship games.
Oh.
To be banging at that door and not get through, it's
And then
equal parts inspiring and demoralizing for those
when
Eagles.
Tyler, when they went to the Super Bowl, I wasn't with the Eagles.
Yeah.
So it
Well, that's
was,
right. You get through on the fourth one and lose to New England.
and I don't even get to experience. So I mean, that's when Coach Reed had moved on. He brought Tom Heckert in. He brought in kind of a new scouting staff, and I can tell you, I was not rooting for the Eagles to win that Super Bowl.
Really
No, not really. But
pissed off.
I mean, just I look back on it, didn't need to be.
Yeah.
That's just the business. It happens because the greatest thing in the world happened to me. I got a job with the Saints, so
Well,
that's how
that's
you
a
have to look. Yeah,
that's really a perfect segue then because
yeah.
the head coach Sean Payton
This
that
is
you
the
worked
best.
for a long time,
Yeah,
he had a decision to make, Jim, and I really did think he would just hit pause on 2023 because there, every job that's available right now, he is probably at the top of that list for every job.
oh yeah.
And at this point, he can make a ton of money anywhere. He should be choosy. He should choose, in my opinion, the best possible situation. And I don't know. I thought that 2024, when that comes around the bend, there could be a team that is a playoff contender with a
Mhm.
quarterback challenging themselves to get better, perhaps at that point. Or maybe the Houston Texans own the number one pick then, and oh, hello, Caleb Williams out of USC. You'll make me 15 years younger. And he can make money like, just hanging out with Colin Cowherd at Fox Sports, right? Like he could just talk football for a year. But I get so obviously the Denver Broncos hired him as their head coach. He's got to be the highest paid coach in the NFL. Everybody knows that by now. I guess though, that's how I was thinking about this whole time. Like just wait because there's a better opportunity out there. You're Sean Payton, and by the way, the Broncos don't have any picks, and Russell Wilson is cooked. Who even knows if he wants to be fixed? We don't know at this point. Uh, and then more you think about it, it's kind of like okay, well, yeah, a lot can change in a year. Right now, his stock is insanely high. It could be really high next year. Who knows what it looks like? I mean, I think it still would be, but maybe that's his thought process. Like it's high right now.
Mhm.
The Broncos want to pay me this amount of money. I believe in my ability to teach the quarterback position. I can get something out of Russell Wilson. I don't know. I'm still a little shocked by his decision. What was your reaction to the news?
I'm kind of well. First of all, I love that he's back in the league for some reason. It's just good to have him back. There's more. He wants to do it, so it's going to be fun. He certainly has his reason. I don't know. I'm with you on Russell, but he has to have a plan. There has to be more to it at quarterback.
We've
So,
always said that about Sean Payton. He
well,
always
here's the thing,
has a
though, Tyler.
plan.
He does, but here's the thing. The only thing I have to say that he never was able to find a replacement for Drew, even a good like we didn't draft. he didn't look at their history of drafting quarterbacks. Not good. Like even as backups, they're not even good backups, some of the guys. So that's how hard it is. I mean, he's as good as you could ever want evaluating anything. And he can't even figure it out sometimes with the quarterbacks. So I guess what I'm saying is he has to have a plan. But once again, what are they going to do with Russell Wilson?
Hmm.
He's not good enough. And look, how could he? Is that what it is? I mean, really, is he going to turn Russell Wilson somehow make? Because I mean, in defense of Hackett, I don't think Russell Wilson is playing at a high level at all. And
I
speaking of Hackett, did we even talk about Hackett going to the Jets right away?
Well, a little bit. I'm with you
Yeah.
though. Like watching those Denver games, and
Anyway,
Lord
yeah,
knows we were force fed to watch those Denver games.
they were
It's
on every.
oh my God, the analogy we used with Joshua Briscoe, the Chiefs
Yeah,
post game host is so it's kind of like needing to watch Human Centipede, basically. Like no, none of us really wanted to watch it. I've never seen it. I can never
I
watch that.
haven't either. No, I can't
But
do
it's
it.
I would imagine that's what the experience is like. It's like
Yeah,
watching Russell Wilson in prime time. That Colts game was just an abomination to the sport. But I don't, Hackett obviously was in over his head as the head coach. I mean, there was a lot of game management blunders, obviously, but there were plays where receivers were open and he just
mm,
didn't hit them. He just
mm,
flat out missed them.
hmm.
And he drove his offensive line nuts. Remember them losing their minds on the sideline? Like they want him to be strong in the pocket, stay in the pocket. He was kind of like flustered and would just bail on plays and not stick in there and plant and throw and take a hit. He's a little gun shy and afraid of getting hit. These are permanent mistakes, it seemed, at this point of his career. Like the
I
magic
agree.
is kind of gone where he just runs around and
I thought
moonballs a
so.
prayer downfield. I don't know how that's appealing to Sean Payton. I really don't. Uh, he might see a side of Russell Wilson none of us see. He might see the amount of money they're willing to pay him, which do you know? I haven't seen how much money are they paying him. Are you sure? Do you know how much that is?
Well, I don't know the exact number, but Tyler, I don't think they're even in a position to get a quarterback. Like, I don't even know what they're. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know.
All right, Mike Kliss of 9news.com. He's covered the Broncos for a long time. He said that Payton will receive, quote unquote, somewhere between 17 million and 20 million per year. Yeah. So
There's your
I
answer.
guess
There's
maybe
the
that's our
answer to
answer.
everything.
Right? Maybe
There's
that's our
the
answer.
answer.
He's like, oh,
I don't think he's going to be too stressed. He's not going to be too stressed if Russell Wilson's good or not.
I mean, and
He'll
then
figure it
meanwhile, I
out.
mean, he probably would have loved to have gone to Dallas if he had, say over the
Yeah, who
roster, which
knows?
isn't
No,
really
maybe
going to
not.
happen with
Maybe.
Jerry Jones.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe the relief, getting total control and having, you know, your last shot, kind of your last run be how you want it. Because it wouldn't be that way in Dallas.
It would not. And Mike McCarthy was not fired. He stays. Yet they're firing everybody underneath him, basically,
Well,
including so many of his allies over the years. It's wild to see Joe Philbin, Rob
how it
Davis, all those
works.
guys
How
go.
it works. I
It
know.
is.
It's
So
the
do you think? Yeah. What's
predictable.
going to happen in Denver? Like, how do you see this going down?
This will be fascinating because I'm still not even sure what's going on with the Saints. Like, Dennis, I don't think it's strange. Like, everything's a little strange right now with New Orleans for me. Like, with Dennis Allen, I'm glad they kept Dennis Allen. I mean, they go way back. I mean, that's loyal that the GM Mickey Loomis stuck with Dennis and it's given him an opportunity. But Coach Payton always had the same assistants. Pete Carmichael, the receiver, he always had Doug Marone's back coaching with the Saints. Coach Payton, those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know who he's getting now. He's extremely tight with Aaron Cromer. but I don't know what Cromer's deal is. I mean, he could try to get Cromer away from Buffalo. That wouldn't surprise me, just so you know.
That's a really good
He
call. It's all about
he could go for
relationships.
Cromer. He could try to make Cromer an offensive coordinator and just get him out of there.
You know what? That's going to be a topic that I'm going to explore down in Phoenix during Super Bowl week, Jim. Is just offensive line coaches. I feel like if it's one of like the true secrets in pro football, where if you can find a really good offensive line coach, that's going to elevate your team in ways you can't even quantify, right? Like a good offensive line coach can make players on that front five so much better than they were before. I mean, you could have a completely different look of an offensive line with a really good line coach, and then that's going to make everybody else better.
No
So, but
question.
if you're looking, like if you're the Denver Broncos, you don't have money to spend, you don't have draft capital, you're trying to get better. That would be a way to get better. It's like Moneyball. It's like Moneyball for football. Find a really good offensive line coach, and maybe he elevates them up front in a way that is
Uh,
substantial.
I would say almost every head football coach I've ever been around believed in that. It started with my father when
Yeah.
you know who his first head coach or his first hire was when he became a head coach, his offensive line coach. That's all he talked about. It was Frank Reich's father.
Wow.
That was his first hire, 1986, as a head coach. He hired Frank Reich as his offensive line coach.
For those who
That was
don't
all my,
know,
yeah.
at where your dad was coaching
That was
at.
at Lebanon Valley College in Pennsylvania, Division III school. Yeah. So anyway, but it was always he always talked about that's number one hire, offensive line coach, and I've seen it with Andy Reid. I've seen it with Sean Payton. Marone was an incredible offensive line coach, Doug Marone. When I met him in New Orleans, and that's what he's doing for the Saints again. So
It's its
those hires
own
are
world, man. It's a different
it's
dimension.
it's and it's like they have their own club too, Tyler. Like you're not welcome if you haven't played the position, if you haven't coached it, you're not welcome. Like stay away.
And you've got to have an element of crazy to you as an O-line coach to be somebody overseeing all of these dudes. And it can get really ugly really fast. You know, it's God, what's his name? Who was the O-line coach that was like doing cocaine off of a stripper? And
Oh, the guy in Miami.
yes. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
look this up real quick because you
that's
can't
a,
you
yeah.
can't just think about cocaine and a stripper and not know who you're talking about here.
No, you caught me off guard on that one.
That will hit you at
Why?
six
Because he
fifty
keeps
five
getting it.
a.m.
Wait, because he keeps getting a job.
Yeah, Chris Forster. That's right.
Chris Forrester.
Yep. Cromer, everybody knows about the beach chair incident. That's well documented. Um, Gosh, and then there was I don't know what happened with the Arizona coach down in Mexico. Did he say it was like false identification or something? He was alleged.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know,
that
man. He's
story. I know. I know.
he's
Mexico,
probably
man. I don't
probably
know
gonna
what to
some
tell
shit
you.
to you. Yeah. Never been to Mexico and I don't have any immediate plans. Um,
I have
you
things
like it down
happen.
there? Things happen, yeah.
Where I went was pretty nice. I have no complaints of Mexico.
We want to talk about the Super Bowl, but maybe not quite yet. You know, there's
Yeah,
there's there's time for
it's
that. We can wait.
yeah. We got to get there. We got to
I'll
get there.
So you've got a lot of XFL stuff. I'll be down in Phoenix for Super Bowl stuff, but we're gonna remotely find a way to break down the matchup, make it happen.
It's gonna be a good one.
It is. You know, I think that there's probably some listeners out there still reeling. We've got a lot of new Cincinnati Bengal fans who read and listen and go along, and they're probably still watching the clips of. And I get it. You can call hold on every single play, but it is crazy to see
It's
what Cincinnati was called for basically happen at the end of that game on Patrick Mahomes' signature run on 3rd and 4. I mean, clear as day, headlock holds, not called. So I feel for you, Bengal fans. Brutal. Obviously, you don't want Joseph Osai, hitting Mahomes out of bounds. I thought his once he talked about it, and God, I can't believe he was able to talk about it like he did.
I
His
know.
explanation
So
actually kind of made sense, where he didn't know where he was on the field, obviously,
it's
but
tough.
he wanted to try to keep him in bounds to keep the clock running. He didn't really hit him that
No, he
hard,
didn't.
and Mahomes
No,
did a good job of selling it too. I'm not saying it was legal; it
no,
was
I'm with you.
obviously a hit out of, but it wasn't as necessarily as
No,
fly splattering on the windshield as it appeared either. But anyways, so Bengal
no,
fans
I agree with
are,
you. It was
figuring out how to consume football. But I think Bills fans are getting there. Right, it's been a couple weeks. They're moving ahead. I think in
it's hard.
2023. But yeah, I think this matchup tells us a lot about these teams. But I'll be writing stories that are bigger picture and hit on some trends as well. So it will all be for subscribers. Go along, td.com. Get on in. We'll have coverage all week in addition to the podcast, of course. Any final thoughts, Jim, as you sip that hotel room
You
coffee?
saw it. I
I
I love
saw
that
it.
I'm doing. I want to make sure I'm doing all the cliches right now to make you feel like because you're gonna be doing it in what, a week, a couple days.
Yeah. Though, that's key.
Concierge water.
If you have the complimentary coffee though in the lobby, it's worth the
I,
trudge down
so
at
I
any
got some.
hour.
I went to the concierge lounge. Had a good batch of coffee here. So
Nice.
I upgraded to the concierge lounge
Well, you
coffee.
probably have more points than you know what to do with, right?
Lifetime because of the area scout job.
Yeah. You lucky bastard. I ran out of my Marriott points long ago. That's what happens.
No, they can go
Um,
quick though.
they can. Oh yeah. Real quick, I'll do a mini rant. I'll try not to go too crazy here, Jim, but I'm always getting into these people who don't return their shopping carts. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
the airplane budger that doesn't deplane by row, you know, just the worst. I have a new most hated person in this society that we live in. All right, so we went to a concert Monday night.
Oh yeah. Okay, I saw
Gregory
that.
Allen Isakov uh, at Babeville. It's like
Yeah,
a church downtown that they turned into a
downtown.
music venue.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome spot. Saw Coulter Wall there, which is crazy. Coulter Wall a few years ago. Now Coulter Wall is huge. He's, in my
Yep.
opinion, the best country musician in the world. He's from Canada, just unbelievable. And this Gregory Allen Isakov, he popped up on my Bon Iver playlist a ton. So every time I write, I listen to Bon Iver radio on Spotify because it's just so relaxing and soothing, and it's
Like it.
like chiller than chill.
Yeah.
Listeners know who Justin Vernon is. That's his band from Wisconsin. I got into him out in Wisconsin, and it is like background music, just relaxing. If you're stressed out in life, just listen to Bon Iver because it will calm you down right away. So, Gregory, he popped onto that playlist a ton as I'm writing this book, Blood and Guts, all these stories, and I got into him. He's incredible. He's like from South
Love it.
Africa, emigrated to, I believe, Colorado, and it is like even more chill, like super relaxing, great
I gotta
music.
get on this, Tyler. Yeah, I gotta
Oh,
listen to
it's so
this.
good. It's so good. So that's the kind of concert we're talking here. And it was packed Monday night, packed,
It's
shoulder to
good.
shoulder. I know there's seating up above, and then you stand on the floor. And usually, I grew up at going to like rock
Mhm.
concerts, or even I went to a Lil Wayne concert once. He was in Buffalo. Those kind of concerts, yes, you scream, you yell, you have a good time. You're pumping a fist, you're bobbing your head. This is not that. It is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It is, you just are there to relax, listen to good music. And that's what everybody there was doing. Everybody loved it. They're bobbing their head. They have a few riffs where they get into it. They got a great banjo player, a
Mhm.
violinist, and there are those moments. But there was a woman God, I hope she listens to the Go Along podcast. She probably does not. But if she does, I just cannot stand you. She's from Canada. She told us immediately. She was standing right behind us and screaming at the top of her lungs from the word go the entire 2 hours for the show, screaming that she's from Canada, that she loves Gregory, screaming the names of songs. But it was, which is okay, fine. You know, the occasional, I get it. It's a concert, but it's not that kind of concert. And if you loved him so much, shut the hell up. She was yapping the whole night, all night, nonstop, loud, obnoxious, annoying, screaming in everybody's ears. Multiple people were telling her, can you just relax? You know, but we're here trying. And then that set her off. Then she started screaming louder. This is a concert. And we're right in front of him, by the way. We're like flanked to the left. So he's hearing all this. He's not even like paying any attention to her, acknowledging her at all. The Gregory Alan Isakov. And
good. That's good to hear. It didn't ruin it.
Exactly. But yeah, like she turned angry when a couple people asked her politely to just try to enjoy the show. But it's not an AC/DC concert. It's not AC. Like it's not. There's no like nobody else in the whole venue was even talking above a whisper. Nobody had their phones out. It was that kind of show. So, God, and then she was bashing America after somebody asked her if she could just quiet down politely. Oh, this is what it's like in America. F you. I'm like, you know what? You can just go back to Canada and not return. That would be fine.
She would ruin like if she was at a movie theater, she's gonna ruin the movie, like somehow,
completely.
Some way.
I think she'd pretty much ruin anything in life. I don't want to be around this person.
No.
Yeah.
Did she not have anybody with her? Like to
no, she had another drunken sailor with her. Yeah. Both. I mean, clearly both high as a kite, drunk, just a mess. Like that's the other thing. Like you're going to a show like this, and you're gonna get all, drugged up. Drunk. I don't. Obviously, I'm guessing here, but it's an educated guess. Yeah, they were on something to act like they were acting.
Something.
But you're doing it for this show. This isn't those.
Not the time.
What are those techno concerts or whatever?
Yeah.
Where you
beat the beat.
Yeah, it's not exactly that. So, anyways, yes, thank you. Here's the takeaway. I promise there's a moral, good takeaway here. That scene told me everything I need to know about the city of Buffalo, because everybody at that venue should have, I wanted to, turn around and lost their goddamn mind on her. Easily could have. Like, and we could have all revolted and kicked her out. No, like the city of good neighbors. Oh my God. It was unbelievable that the restraint that everybody around her at this show had to not lose our minds. So kudos to Buffalo, New York. This is why it's great living here. The people are amazing. And this woman was an outsider coming into our world, acting unlike anybody else. And it'd be great if Babe built his band for life. I hope that happened. It could have happened. All right, Jim. Thanks so much. Talking Eagles, Sean Payton. We'll get into the matchup soon. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it was good talking. That was a good one. Reliving some old stories. Good luck out in the Super Bowl, too.
All righty. We'll talk soon.